G'day and welcome to a car that secretly everybody loves, but only a select few will actually admit to it, the Kia Proceed GT. Now it feels like here on ReDriven that anytime we feature a Kia of any sort, amongst the comment section filled up by fans loving Kias, there's this like carpet bombing of out of touch fools just going, Kias suck, they're just crap cars. In saying that, but Kias for a long time, they were pretty cheap and crap cars and they were deserving of ridicule. But apparently this is the car that turned Kia's entire, image around. Apparently these were brilliant. At least they were when they were new, but what about when they're not new? Like, what actually goes wrong with these? What do they like to live with on a daily basis? What do they cost to own and operate? And should you buy one? But first of all, what even is a Proceed GT? Well, basically, the Proceed GT is not only Kia's first hot hatch, but the company's first performance-oriented car, and it acted as a halo model for the second-generation Seed range. Available here in Australia across 2 trim levels as purely a 3-door hatch from 2013, other markets also received a 5-door hatch variant from 2014. Now here's a fun fact, the Proceed GT actually shares its engine and platform with the Hyundai Veloster Turbo, although they do have different rear suspension. Also, if you love the way this thing looks, and honestly, how could you not, you could thank a guy called Peter Schreier because he designed this, but before he was working for Kia and Hyundai, he was the head of design for Volkswagen and Audi. Now look, rather than going through every single specific detail of this car in this video, because let's be honest, that would take forever, we have grabbed all of those specific details and we've put them in our incredibly handy and totally free ReDriven cheat sheets over at ReDriven.com. The link is also down there in the description, but first up, what's it like to drive? Now, many do call the Proceed GT a hot hatch, but there's a bit of a problem in calling it a hot hatch technically. See, like it's a hugely enjoyable car to drive, and it is a performance car, definitely, but in performance terms, it's not in the same levels of, your Renault Megane RSs or even your Golf GTIs. In saying that, but it feels more mature and more grown up than, say, like a Ford Fiesta ST or even a Polo GTI or even a Clio RS. So while technically it's not a hot hatch, it's definitely warmer than a warm hatch. So maybe it should be called a spicy hatch. Now here's a fun fact, at least for Proceed GTs that are located in Australia, the steering and suspension has been tuned for Australian conditions, and dare I say it, it might be perfect for this style of car. Like it's really comfortable. Like, even on rough roads, it's still compliant and comfortable, but then when you're like getting up it still retains total control. It sits flat through corners. The steering is fantastic. I bloody love it. Actually, on that, with a lot of performance cars, especially hot hatches, after a few years, the suspension can sometimes either go really harsh and crashy or really spongy and kind of boat-like, but not in this. Even after many years and many, many kilometres, it still feels totally sorted. Now, engine performance-wise, yeah, it's good. Like, it's not like throw you back in the seat, oh my God, this thing's a weapon, but it's definitely spicy enough. Now, in saying that, the tuning scene for both Kia and Hyundai seems to be growing exponentially every day. And if you're happy to risk some reliability, these engines are capable of some serious firepower. Now, sounds-wise, like obviously the engine sounds quite good, but as far as rattles and squeaks go, nothing. Like, it feels like it's been chiseled from granite, this interior. There's a rattle in the back, that's our camera case, but besides the camera case, honestly, even over big bumps, it's silent in here, it's fantastic. In terms of negatives, the blind spot over your left shoulder, or right shoulder if you're watching this from a left-hand drive market, it's a pretty decent blind spot, and the vision out the back, it's not the biggest aperture of window, so it's a little challenging to see when you're reversing into a spot. Besides that, I can't find any other negatives. Like, even in terms of the control surfaces, like the pedal feel, the gear change, the way everything feels to the hand, easily equally on par with any of its European rivals. In fact, you know what? I'll go as far as saying that any of the brand snobs out there that turn their noses up at like Kias and Hyundais, after driving this thing, it proves that those people are the most deluded people in the motoring industry, because this isn't even like a Hyundai N car. This is just like a kind of run-of-the-mill performance Kia. It's a few years old, and it's fantastic to drive. Look, overall, what's it like to drive even after many years and many kilometers? It is hugely enjoyable. Like, when you really want to have some fun, it is a genuinely fun car to drive. But then when you just, trotting around from A to B in the suburbs like this, still equally enjoyable. I am so incredibly impressed by the driving experience. Okay, firstly, the seating position is about as perfect as it gets. Like, you can sit so low. Also, because the shoulder line here is quite high, you just feel like hunkered down and you're a part of the car. As far as the design-wise goes, like, it's feeling its age just a little bit, but then the materials used are really impressive. So you'd think this would all be like hard, scratchy plastic, but it's not. This is all like all soft touch plastic. So there's a good level of squidge here. Also, and we'll get to the tech stuff in a moment, but this owner has fitted an aftermarket head unit with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And just the addition of that modernizes the entire design. So it's aging in one way a little bit, but then this makes it look like it's a current model, which is fantastic. Okay, more on the seating position. These seats, Recaros, my God, they're comfortable. Like, on a long trip, they're super comfy, but then when you start getting through some corners with a bit of enthusiasm, they hold you in position really nicely. I know perfect is a big word, but it's just fantastic. Now, as far as wear and tear goes, look, this is this owner's everyday driver. And you could never really tell, short of, like, the bolster on the right-hand side here is a little bit overly squidgy from getting in and out, but on the passenger seat, like, this kind of fabric, Alcantara look fabric is fantastic. The leather's wearing really well. Even on the steering wheel, it's not going too glossy, and you can restore that pretty easily. Even the red stitching, like, that's easy to clean up. Door cards, hardly any scratches there. Even like the piano black plastic, which normally scratches up like crazy, in this is actually wearing really well. I've never seen piano black plastic kind of effect like that wear so well. Even like the center console, like down here, like heaps of stuff gets thrown in there, and the cup holders, like all around here, it feels almost new. As far as practicality goes, here we go. Massive glove box. Like, that is a huge glove box there. You've got a spot for your phone here. It sort of fits, not really, but there's storage there. 2 cup holders here. Massive little storage bin here. I can't even get my hand all the way down to the bottom there. Excellent sized door bins that'll hold, a ReDriven water bottle, which you can buy on the merch store. There's a spot here for life's filth and secrets, and nope, that's not even dirty, so well done. And a spot for your sunglasses up here. And up front, I think there's nothing under the seats. I think that's it for practicality up front. Now, before we get into what the back seat is like, the doors on these are huge. That looks great, I know, but the problem is if someone parks really close to you in a car park, like say here, actually getting in is a bloody nightmare. In saying that, but to get into the back seat, it's just one lever and this thing opens up, so it's actually really easy to get in and out of the back seat. Plus, when you put the seat back, it goes back to its original position. You don't have to adjust it afterwards. What's the back seat like? Now, in the back seat, I'm exactly 11 centimeters taller than the average height of all of the members of K-pop pop sensation BTS. This is in my driving position, and you know what? For what this car is, really comfortable, like heaps of foot room. Okay, my legs have got to be spread a little bit, and this shoulder line's really high, so okay, it does feel a little bit claustrophobic in here, but sheer comfort-wise, these seats are incredibly comfy. As far as wear and tear goes, none really. There's no signs of wear and tear. In saying that, there is a baby seat right here, so the wear and tear of this interior is going to get interesting in about 3 years. As far as practicality in the back seats, you've got 2 map pockets on the backs of the seats, and you've got an enormous bin here with like a bottle holder, and that's about it. No armrests. It's decent. And practicality in the boot, bloody excellent. Like, this is a decent sized boot back here. There's a little bit of a load lip here, which is kind of annoying, but the aperture's quite wide. But even better, these seats fold flat, so with the seats down, super practical. Now, thanks to Kia being like hell-bent on turning their image around with this car, both trim specs of this car are absolutely loaded with tech and features. In terms of the exterior,
you'll get 18-inch alloys, a sexy body kit with a rear diffuser, twin exhausts, larger front grille with red highlights, fog lights, automatic headlights, rain-sensing wipers, rear parking sensors, a reversing camera, and the all-important GT badging.
While here inside,
you'll have those fantastic Recaro seats, dual-zone climate control, remote central locking, tinted windows, cruise control, a trip computer, an excellent-sounding 6-speaker stereo with Bluetooth connectivity, and a CD player.
Unfortunately, in standard trim, these do miss out on like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but as the owner of this car has done, it's easily fixed with some aftermarket equipment.
However, satellite navigation was added from 2015, and if you opt for the GT Tech trim spec, it adds active HID headlamps, a panoramic sunroof, keyless entry with push-button start, door handle lighting, privacy glass, and a luggage net.
See, these things have so much in terms of kit, but in terms of safety,
the 3-door Proceed GT was never tested by Australian Safety Authority ANCAP. However, the 5-door hatch on which it is based was tested back in 2014, and it received a perfect 5-star safety rating.
So it's safe to assume that that rating also applies to this car. But to take you through all the safety features and what these things have got in terms of safety, here's another voiceover, but this time it's going to be in like a K-pop style.
Standard safety features on the Proceed GT include 6 airbags, ABS, brake assist, EBD, ESC, and seatbelts with protectioners and load limiters.
Again, for the full breakdown of all the tech and safety features that these have, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out that cheat sheet. Now, as always, guys, a massive shout out to all the owners groups and the owners of these cars that helped us with the research of this video. If you've noticed something that we've missed, please let us know in the comments. Okay, first up, there are a few reports that the key fob can drain the car's battery. What basically happens is if the key's situated too close to the car, it kind of wakes the car up and drains the battery. Kia themselves have actually recommended that you keep the key fob more than 10 meters away from the car. Now, next up, as these are, let's be honest, a performance car and they're an affordable one, they are susceptible to some accident damage and abuse. Actually, there's a bunch of other things you do need to check out before you buy one, and hence why we've made the ultimate used car buyer's guide. Please watch that before you buy any used car, including this, because it could save you thousands of dollars. The link is just up there and down there somewhere as well. Now, common problems inside, well, there aren't. There aren't really any common problems as such. There are a lot of owners that complain about how crap the standard infotainment systems are, but as we explained, that's really easily fixed with an aftermarket unit like this. But yeah, besides just a first world problem like that, no common problems. Now, before we get into like mechanically what can go wrong with these, look, the only way that we can keep making these videos for you guys is with your support. And the easiest way of supporting us is simply by hitting the like, subscribe and bell buttons and sharing our content as much as possible. Just doing all that honestly helps us out so much. Okay, so mechanically, what goes wrong with the Kia Proceed GT? Look, I'd love to tell you, but I can't because I'm not a qualified mechanic. But you know who is? Jim.
The G4FJ, that's the 1.6 litre turbo petrol engine in these, they're a stout little unit with no one common, expensive, serious problem that causes catastrophic failures. A lot of the ones we see in the workshop are still under warranty, and we've never actually had to refer one back to the dealership for any warranty repairs. There are a couple of technical service bulletins out there relating to isolated cases of oil dilution. That's where the engine oil becomes contaminated with some unburnt fuel and some carbon deposits from incomplete combustion. That's more of a problem for vehicles that do low mileage and a lot of cold starts and short trips. And if that's how you drive your car, it's really important that you get the services done based on the time recommendations rather than the mileage recommendations. In fact, that goes for all modern day engines. The 6-speed manual transmission in these is also rated as very reliable, and although we have heard some reports of slipping clutches, it does seem to be related to the ones that have been tuned. In standard form, very few problems. So if you were to buy one, how much would that cost?
Well, mate, the most affordable ones currently here in Australia are being advertised for around about $14,000. And at the other end of the spectrum, you're going to be looking at around about 23 grand for the most recent mint condition examples with hardly any kilometres on them. Something like this, a 2014 model, but in absolutely brilliant condition, but with well over 70,000 Ks on it, around about 17 grand. But what do they cost to own and operate? Kia claims a fuel consumption figure of 7.4 litres per 100 Ks. This car's average is 12.3, and it's understandable because it's a hell of a lot of fun to drive. Okay, but after all of that, should you buy one? Well, they do make for a very attractive proposition, don't they?
It looks fantastic. It's practical, it's reliable, it's safe, it's loaded with features, and in terms of driving, okay, sure, it's not the hottest of hot hatches, but it does avoid many of the compromises that come with more focused performance cars. It's even pretty rare, so in its own way, it's exclusive.
Actually, I'll go as far as saying that if these were wearing a European badge of some sort, they would have sold like crazy.
So the only reason that you wouldn't buy one is if you are stuck in the past, holding on to some outdated opinion that Kias are just rubbish, because the Proceed GT shows just how far Kia have come.
This is a brilliant car. It is a massive yes from us. Yes, you should buy one of these. And actually, it's another car that goes on my I must own one day list. In saying that, if anyone out there has one of these that you're willing to sell me for a fair and reasonable price, can you let us know in the comments? Because I am seriously considering buying one. I bloody love it. So guys, do you buy one of these, or do you get like a Fiesta ST or a Polo GTI or a Renault Clio RS? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next week. See ya.
They're actually a pretty stout little unit with no one big main catastrophic problem that... Oh, it's so close.
Here's another voiceover, but this time in bird. Okay, one more time, okay. Come on, here we go. This is the one. All right, that bird. Do you buy one of these, or do you get a fair... Slow down, okay. Okay, but after all of that, the truck's gonna ruin the take.